This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.
And welcome back, everybody. This is such an important podcast for many of us, and you might not even want to process this, but here it is. How to know that you are in the right relationship. Wondering? Maybe you're pondering? We're going to go into that today. Lots of different ways to tell, and that's courtesy of a certified relationship coach. And this is what she does, focuses on relationships. I mean, let's face it, we're human, social craving creatures. We crave connection. Relationships are part of them. I'm assuming that we're talking about close relationships, call it intimate if you will. I don't know if this also applies to business relationships, but I don't know. Let's ask her. Tiffany Aquino is back with us. How are you doing today?
I'm good, Steve. Thanks so much for having me. Good to be back. How are you?
Intrigued. Can't wait to dig into this. Actually, I never want to say that. Can't wait. Why can't you wait? I'm looking forward. I'm looking forward to digging into this. Now, does this apply to mostly any relationships, or are we talking about the close ones?
We're going to talk about the close ones and
Okay.
specifically the romantic relationships, of course. The close romantic relationships, whether it's a fiance, boyfriend, girlfriend, or marriage, what have you. But that partnership, that romantic partnership, is what we're going to be talking about. So, are we ready?
I'm not really sure. No, and this is not like, I'm fearing, am I in the right relationship right now? No.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about past relationships and what I could have seen,
good.
known, apply this to them as a sort of a
Yes.
side-by-side comparison and see where we're at. But yeah, let's do this. What do we got?
Absolutely. That's going to hit on a lot of those touch points for everybody, I think, right? We're going to think about what the current relationship they're in right now, whether we have one or not, and then our previous relationships, how we behaved, what we went through, the patterns, and so on and so forth. But I really wanted to narrow in on this because we all ask that question. I mean, don't you, Steve? We've asked before, how do we know we're in the right relationship? Is this the right relationship for us, right? And there's so many different aspects we've talked about before: boundaries, standards, values, so on and so forth. But we're really going to kind of narrow it down and come to answer that question, because that's the main question we always ask ourselves, right? How do we know if we're in the right relationship? So there are 12 points, and I want to kind of slow down at number 6 once we get there, because that one's truly important. That one's about conflict. And so number 1 is our nervous system. And we discussed before that we know, right? Our body just knows. The body keeps the score. I haven't read the book yet, but if you want to talk about that one later. But our nervous system knows if we're in a good situation or not, and we need to listen to that. And a lot of times we talk about energy. I like that person energy, or I didn't like their energy, so on and so forth. Or if you want to talk about your own energy, my energy just feels off for whatever reason. I need to come to a line, right? So that's one, right? I feel at peace with somebody when I'm with them. My nervous system just feels good, right? Number 2 would be huge, of course, communication. Do you feel safe? Last time we talked about emotional safety, right? And there's a couple of pieces that branch off from that. But in the communication piece, of course, communication there is so incredibly important in a relationship. And once we get to number 6, I want to talk about the certain attachment styles that have a hard time communicating. And we need to understand that and why. So in that communication, do we feel safe communicating with them, or do we feel like we're walking on eggshells? So if you know you're in the right relationship, you feel safe communicating with them, which as the opposite of that is you don't feel safe communicating with them, right?
Sure.
And right, and you're kind of confused and feeling like, well, I'm not sure. I'll just hold it in. I'm not sure if I'll be judged. I'm not sure what they're going to. If you're constantly overthinking things in regards to not feeling safe or trusting that you can be vulnerable, like we talked about before with somebody. So that's one. That's how you know if you are in the right relationship. You feel safe communicating yourself with them. Number 3 is that both people, I don't want to just say they, but let's talk about this as a whole, that both people make an effort to be in the relationship. You talked about last time reciprocity. So taking initiative if somebody's going to initiate, or, to know if you're in the right relationship, there's that balance, right? There's consistency in that. It's not always going to be a perfect consistency all the time, but they're still showing up, right? Both of you are still showing up into the relationship. Both of you are making effort. And I kind of want to step back a little bit and look at this and say that, and I learned a little piece of this from Brene Brown as well. Her and her husband will come and he'll walk in one day, and she said that he'll walk in and say, okay, I only got 20% today, right? That's kind of their cue and their message to each other. And I think that's a great way to go about that, right? As a
So we
couple.
saying
Just
you're feeling 20% in terms of, mental capacity,
yeah,
energy. Like I'm low. I'm just telling you right now,
yeah,
I'm low today. I don't know what it is, but it is.
right, exactly. And that way you've communicated that and you understand where the other person's at that point, right? Because you're not, you're both human beings. You're not always going to carry 100%, 100% of the time. You're just not. That's just how it is. And that's the importance of partnership. You're there to help each other through that journey.
I kind of love that
Uh,
in a way though, because if you don't say that, then the other
yeah.
person might be thinking, all right, they're mad at me, they're not hearing me, they're not seeing me. So
Mhm.
I guess it would be a problem if every day you say, 20%, I'm sorry, and then you walk
Yeah.
away. Not going to work. But, you've had one of those days and you just come in. Yeah, I just want to, I'm at like 30%. Doesn't have to mean that your partner has to do anything.
Uh-huh.
It doesn't mean that they have to swing into like a first responder, jump into action. Like, all right, what do we do here? No, it's just like I'm depleted. I'm just saying I'm 30%. Just let you know. Um,
Exactly.
hmm,
Yeah.
love it.
And a lot of times, just communicating that piece right when somebody walks in the door, or just the start of the day, whatever it is, at the end of their day, their work day, and they come home and that's all they say, and they just need to go into their space for a few minutes and just kind of process. But to communicate why they're in that place, why they're only 20%, right? So that, yeah, that's the communication piece after that fact, right?
Gotcha.
Um, and so their words and their actions align. That one's huge too. They're not just all talk, right? To know you're in the right relationship, their words and their actions align. And in the beginning of a relationship, that's going to be difficult. I'm talking about like right in the beginning of a relationship, because you're just getting to know each other, obviously, right? So, which is why communication is important, and having the vulnerability to express and communicate your emotional needs and your values with each other. I think emotional needs are so important because those are your needs. That's what you need in order to feel seen, valued, and heard, which is our next point. When you feel seen, valued, and heard, and I think we've heard that many times before, and that goes for both personal and professional life. But when anybody feels seen, valued, and heard, you know that you don't have to fight for attention, right? You know that you feel safe. That's pretty much what this all boils down to, is that both people feel safe. They feel emotionally safe. Their nervous system feels safe. They feel safe to communicate with each other. And again, in the beginning of a relationship, it's not going to go straight to that, right? This is about growing together. And in
Mm.
order to grow together, you need to understand each other's emotional needs. And in order to do that, you need to communicate that. Uh, and with that, you have this. So I want to get back to being seen, valued, and heard. And so to know that you're in the right relationship, to know that you're in the wrong relationship, obviously, is the opposite of that. If you're constantly fighting for attention and that's consistent, then no, you're not in the right relationship. If someone's not valuing your boundaries or your standards, obviously, and that's consistent, then you're not in the right relationship, right?
And
Um,
to stay on this one point for a moment, I don't know if
yeah.
we ever talked about this, but it was about 3 weeks ago where a study came out and they said the number one thing you can do to improve your relationship will take you 60 seconds. And what is it? It's give your undivided attention
Uh-huh.
for 1 minute to your partner. And I know
Yeah.
it sounds ridiculous, but how many times do we do that? And when you think you're doing it, what are you really doing? Looking at dishes in the sink. They're telling you their day, what's going on with them. You're looking at your phone. Or somebody will say, well, we spent a lot of time in the car. We were driving. Were you really looking at them the entire time? No, you're driving. So 60 seconds on every single day. So
Uh-huh.
that, to your point, so they can be seen and heard.
Right, right. so that you make a good point about the car, by the way. So no dig to anybody because relationships are what they are and you learn and you grow from them. But in the car, it was you think that you're going to have that time together because you're in this journey, you're both in the car together, you're in closed space and you've got this time to talk. But
Yep.
at business calls, it was just constantly on the call all the time. And so so yeah, that's just one piece.
It
But
isn't even
60,
undivided attention though. You're let's say you're driving, your partner's in the passenger seat, you got time in between kids practice or whatever it is, and
yeah,
you think that we're quote unquote together. Yes,
right.
you are physically, but you're really not giving them 100%,
Presence.
even 60 seconds because you're
Yes.
driving. So you're focused on driving.
Right, right. You mentioned that before, Steve, and I thought that was a great point. And I think my reaction to that was, oh my gosh, that's kind of a long time. But if you really think about that, in today's day and age, it is a long time, but we shouldn't think of it that way. It's really unfortunate that we see 60 seconds, a full minute of undivided attention, our full presence
Yep.
to the person that we've devoted our life to, our partner. And the least we can do is honor that for a day. I think
Mm,
that would be a wonderful practice.
imagine.
Um, yeah, right. So, yeah. And that going into our next point of connection. So when you have that, of course, you have a great connection. And in that connection needs to be balanced. We try to have things balanced as much as we can, which means consistency in the relationship, right? Things not going to be completely balanced all the time, but for the most part, there is some consistency of balance within the relationship, communication and excuse me, feeling safe. And the energy, back to the energy again, that's mutual, right? It's not like, well, I like their energy and then the other person's like, well, their energy was a little off for me, I didn't like that. So that again, like, you just know, right? Everybody knows, like you said, energy knows no time or space. So the body knows, your intuition knows, your heart knows. And what I think is important to that is moving down to, within that is don't force it. If you feel like, oh my gosh, the energy is really chemistry, right? Let's say in the beginning of the relationship, and chemistry is very fleeting. It only lasts a certain amount of time. Once you get to that calm, typically it's after that honeymoon stage, which is the 3-month period, then you're in the real zone, right? And kind of that crucible moment. If you could push through that
Mm,
for second term and and then get to the real deal and the rawness and the beauty of the relationship and really getting to know each other and really communicating and pushing through some things that might you have maybe considered to be either boredom when actually it's peace or annoyances and you're just really getting to know somebody and getting over yourself and your own little triggers, right? So yeah, I would
can
say
I
so.
just spike in here?
Yep,
You said the word intuition.
yep,
I'm going to riff on that for a moment.
okay,
If your intuition tells you that something is off, and it's not a one off, you keep feeling
yeah,
it, you
yeah,
need to honor it as and whatever that may be. Maybe you think that we need to communicate more. Something is off, and that intuition is just kind of every couple of days, you're feeling it again. I'm feeling it again. Or you have
mhm,
some suspicions about something.
sure.
Honor thy intuition. Just just saying.
Exactly.
You were born with it for a reason. So use it. Use it. Not to
Absolutely.
go in freak mode or anything like that, but just, things that need to get a closer look or communication needs to be changed up or whatever it might be. There's a
Sure.
reason you're thinking it and feeling it. It's not just mine must be crazy. No,
Right.
no.
Right. Right. I think you make a very good point, Steve. And um, we've both of us have gone through marriage and through divorce, and there are a lot of other relationships that were before that or after that. But you learn a lot when you go through marriage and you go through divorce. You learn about a lot about yourself, about other people,
Yep.
mostly about yourself. And like you said, in that intuition, right? And no matter how long you've been with somebody and you think you know them or you think you know yourself, right? There's just a lot of lessons that can be learned
Sure.
through going through experiences like that. So 100% listen to your intuition. And if you're listening, I would say to somebody, if you're listening to this and you hear us say, listen to your intuition and you immediately react too soon, I would say don't react too soon.
No.
look into, and you're not saying that either, and I know that, and we're saying, okay, now kind of, if you're seeing that it's consistent, go with it, right? If you're saying, okay, I feel something's off, let me communicate with my partner about what I feel is off, and then go on whatever they say and their communication is. And if that feels off, whatever their response was to me, and it's still not aligning right, and it's still, and that consistency of not feeling right, listen to it. Yeah, absolutely.
Listen to
Yes.
it. Like song by Roxette, listen to your heart. You know.
Yes, that's a great song.
So you just gotta, just and don't react immediately. And again, this is I'm not no negativity here. This applies to any
Mhm.
situation. Your intuition is telling you something for a reason. And side note on
Yeah,
that, it's my belief that people show you who they are in the beginning. So if you're engaging into a new relationship, no matter what kind it is, just pay attention.
yeah,
Pay attention.
yes,
Mm.
I agree. I don't think that's 100% of the time. I do think, all depending on how long you are within the beginning of that relationship. And here's why I say that, because moving into our next point, which is the conflict piece, number 6, like, what I learned through my divorce, and what I have heard many, many times before, and what I've just learned as being a relationship coach is, I don't know if you have heard this term before, but it's called how to fight right. Have you ever heard that before, Steve?
No.
You got to learn how to fight right. Okay. Well, through our divorce counselor, which of course didn't last very long and it was very one-sided, but anyways, it was, I learn how to fight right. And I thought, well, what in the world does that mean? And once I understood that, it makes perfect sense. Of course, every couple is going to argue, right? There are going to be some arguments from time to time, but if it's consistent and they're blowups, obviously that's not healthy. However, there are going to be conflicts. There are going to be some pieces where you both need to communicate, and um, and you need to, dig into understanding each other. If you're When you're in a right relationship, you want to understand each other. When you're in the right relationship, you want to work it out. When you're in the right relationship, you will find a way to communicate and to work it out and to grow together and to repair the conflict. When you're in the wrong relationship, you're going to throw your hands up in the air and you're going to say, it's your fault. It's not my fault. It's always you. You're going to be walking on eggshells. That's all the wrong relationship traits. The right relationship traits are, I want to understand you. I want to make this right. I want to make this better. I want to communicate. This is super hard for me, but I want to put in the work for it. I want you to know this is really hard for me. This isn't something that I'm used to. Be vulnerable, be open, but that's the right relationship. That's the right person for you, who wants to understand you and who wants to work things out when you're in the conflict. And the point that I want to make to that even more so is, we have different attachment styles, right?
Mm.
And I was an avoidant attachment style for so long because of my past childhood trauma. I just avoided. If things got hard, I either went into fight or flight. I completely avoided. I didn't know how to communicate it. I just didn't. So I just shut down. And there are plenty of avoidant attachment styles out there who are in a relationship with either an anxious attachment style or someone who is secure. So I'll give you an example. If someone's an avoidant and they're in a relationship with someone who kind of teeters between a secure and an anxious, right? And they're in their secure mode, and then the avoidant, something happens in the relationship, a conflict happens, and the avoidant completely avoids, right? And the secure all of a sudden is like, okay, I'm not feeling so secure now, because how am I going to communicate with you if you're completely avoiding me? I'm just standing here all by myself. What do I do? And now they're falling into this anxious. So that's that now they're falling into the anxious attachment style, right? So it's like, but the more you peck and the more you want to communicate with the avoidant, the more they're going to push away. So this is why understanding each other's emotional needs and making the initiative to and the effort to say, what are your emotional needs? What do you need from me when we're in a conflict? Tell me what you need from me. He's like, okay, look, okay, I'm an avoidant. And when we get into these conflicts, you can't push right away. You need to give me my space. I need to walk away. You just also need to know that I'm going to come back. And I think that's very important to know that um, there are, we all have triggers, and there are certain triggers no matter what attachment style you're in. Everyone's got them. right? So, but communicating those emotional needs with your partner, huge. I think it will save so many people and so many couples
Mhm.
a great deal of pain and further conflict, and making that just drag on when it doesn't need to drag on. It doesn't. And for so long, that's what I did in my relationships, is that I just let it drag on because I didn't know how to communicate. I was the avoidant, and then I became the anxious, and then slowly fell into the secure and kind of teeter-totter back into it, depending on the situation. But when you have an avoidant, or if you have an anxious or secure, if they're pushing away, or this person's doing that or whatever, if both of you understand each other's emotional needs and you communicate to each other, when we're in a conflict, this is what I need from you. Okay. And when we're in a conflict, this is what I need from you. And you honor each other's peace and their space and what they have, and you respect that, and make sure that you tell the other person, I'm going to come back, I'm not just going to step away, and yes, I'll honor your needs, and so on and so forth. I think just those words right there offers a lot of grace and forgiveness and empathy and compassion, um, for one another.
So some thoughts on that.
So
You might not know what attachment style you have or are until you talk with somebody like yourself, like a relationship coach, so you can figure it
uh,
out. Let's say
yeah.
you did. You realize I'm an avoidant. I from my past, I don't like conflict.
uh,
I like just to, I just like kind of sweep it under the rug, which isn't healthy because it just, kind of festers and then has to come up again.
yeah.
Is it reasonable to once you figured it out to say
Mhm.
to the other person, this is the way I am. Like I don't like
Yes.
conflict, maybe in the future I need a minute, or I need an hour or four, whatever. Yeah, I'm not
Mhm.
blowing you off. I just, I need to process this and then we'll come back together and we'll talk about it.
Yes, 100%. Absolutely. That's how I was. And I'll be honest, sometimes that's how I still am. And I think that's just human nature. Human nature is whatever the circumstances or whatever happened. We can't say we're 100% secure, we're 100% avoidant, we're 100% anxious all the time. I think we do hold a dominant attachment style sometimes, but there are certain circumstances that will very quickly have us kind of go in and out of other attachment styles, depending on the circumstance. And the way to understand your partner and what the circumstances, communicate.
Mm,
And stepping away, I still do that. If I'm in a relationship, I will certainly say, look, I need to step away right now. I need to, or if I'm on the phone, I need to hang up right now. I'll call you back or text you, whatever. It's like, but if you stay in, if you don't communicate that, and you're just batting back and forth, it's really not going to do anybody any good. So the right relationship um, will want to a really good, healthy relationship will say, hey, look, this isn't getting anywhere. Both of us aren't going anywhere. I don't care who's right now. I just want us to be good and to repair. What do you need from me? And here's what I need from you. So,
good.
yeah,
How,
communicating
how
your
many
understanding.
how many relationships do that? Say, what do you need from me at this time? That nobody ever says that.
Yeah,
And I appreciate your honesty and transparency in all of this. And it's very common, the
yeah,
avoidance. And where does
oh,
that go back to? In so many different things, but you could have been a kid, your parents would fight all the time, let's just
mhm,
say. So you don't want to do that. You don't want to be in that. You don't even
right,
know, unless you figure this out, why
right,
somebody is an avoidant, but
right.
that could be a trigger, like in their mind. I don't want to go back to that. That's painful memory of
Yes,
conflict between your parents. Again, I'm going hypothetical here, but once
yeah,
you can truly talk about it, and you were spot on, by the way. We're just about out of time, and you said we were going to get to number six, and
yeah,
and there we are. Um, I've said it before, but I'm saying it again, and I wish I said this years ago, but you are not allowed to get into any relationship unless you determine the five love languages. It's just the
yes,
way it should be. That's fundamental. Made
yeah.
that mistake along the way. Probably could have saved a lot of time and misery in figuring out what each person needs in a relationship.
Absolutely. Understanding where the other person's been, like you just said, if they're an avoidant, having some empathy and compassion for where they've been in the past, and then just giving them some grace and communicating that. Yeah.
Mm.
So,
And talk to somebody that can walk that journey with you because A lot of this stuff is
Right.
new to all of us. You and I'm gonna say here, we didn't know this back then. We started figuring
Yeah.
it out. You more so because you're certified in this. But as soon as you start figuring it out, it's like, oh, then you figure yourself out, what your needs
Yep.
are, what your boundaries and all of that are.
Correct.
How do we connect with you, Tiffany?
Thank you. So I have two ways on my website, which is tiffanyAquinocoaching.com, or on Instagram at Tiff, Aquino, Aquino coaching.
Thank you for today. So important. It really is. Um, And if you are, let's say, an avoidant, you want to walk away, understood. But the other person may take that as they don't care. They're not hearing me. They're not, I don't feel safe. And that's just one example. There's all different attachment styles connected
Yes.
to it.
Giving each other grace and the time to listen to each other and to
Yep.
understand. So yes.
Very cool. Appreciate you being here and what you do, and looking forward next time we get together.
Thank you, Steve. Likewise.
All right. We'll talk soon. We'll be right back.
This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.